Yo, yo, here we go. I hope y'all are having a blessed day today. Here is Santos Bonacci. How are you doing today, sir?
Wonderful. Yourself?
Good, fantastic, excited, very excited, excited. Yep.
Yeah, me too.
And here's why. Go ahead.
And here's why. Today I have a friend who I've known for several years, a good Hare Krishna devotee named Achintya Govinda Das, which I will introduce right now. Would you like to come around, please?
Thanks very much. I will.
And he's my very good friend, Achintya. And what we're going to do, or what he is going to do, is share his beautiful azimuthal equidistant flat Earth map here with all detail at the end of the toward the end of the presentation, and we are going to present some of the photographic evidence that Achintya has done with his Nikon 900 and P900. Soon to upgrade to the new 1000, and so yeah.
Nice.
And so Achintya is one of the flat earthers here on the east coast of Australia who is doing his own tests, experiments, photography, and he has catalogued and tabulated a whole bunch of PowerPoint slides, and this is his map, which is available. Toward the end of the show, of course, we will present, or Achintya will present this. It is $108 Australian, which means it's probably about 75 US dollars to purchase, plus postage. So I just thought I'd mention that now because this is now available.
Nice.
And once you, and once you see all the detail and all the Vedic wisdom that is on this map, you'll want it. I'll just show you one feature before I get off and hand over Achintya for the rest of the 2-hour presentation, or thereabouts. But my favourite thing is all the OMS in 24 languages. Of course, this is the 24-hour clock, the primum mobile, which is said to be a 20.
Yeah. Hey, also Santos, before we get started, I want to make sure this is recording the whole screen here. Can we just take a quick pause? It looks like it's. I just want to make sure somebody adjusted something here, and I want to make sure it's getting the whole screen.
Yep.
Let me just pause this. Hold on.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Good, brother. Good.
Okay, so
Did you want me to introduce that again, or you?
No. We're good. We're just picked right off. Boom. We're good to go. It's already. You don't have to introduce anything.
Okay. Well, I'll hand over to Achintya.
Well, let's have a look at the first slide. Can you bring that first slide up, Ben?
All right. So this is my computer, so that's why we're anyways, just like that. Okay. All right. Now I need to share the screen. Oops. There you go.
So you can see that FBI slide?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Excellent. So we can just proceed from here. Obviously, some of the images I'm using in this PowerPoint are not mine. I prefer to use my own, but actually that's quite difficult. You've got to produce them. So I'm going to just sort of, doesn't seem to be moving on, Santos. What are you going to do? Just a minute. Santos! Okay, well look, I'll just ad-lib for the second. What I've tried to do, Jerry, and the audience, is to do my own images wherever possible because of copyright and all the dialogue that goes on with the internet and their policing of breaching of copyright. So I don't know where he's just ducked out to. I've only got 4 arrows to use here to make it move on.
Right.
Hold on, let me see if I can see. This is really... There you are.
Yeah, these computers drive me crazy too, let me tell you.
Okay. I see
Oh, there you
what's
go.
going on.
Something. Hey, you got something going there. 3 spirits.
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick bit of background about myself so that you know
Okay.
what's happening. It's as a young being living on this world, I decided to look into all things spiritual when I was probably in my late teens. I was raised as a Christian, however, I didn't really enjoy the whole process, perhaps. So I started looking into the Vedic culture, which is a Sanskrit-based culture. And Sanskrit is the oldest known language in a written form with a script. So most language experts turn around and put Sanskrit in the what's called Indo-European category. And I prefer to think of Sanskrit as the mother tongue of most languages in the world. There are some exceptions. Now, Sanskrit is actually a font. We can say it's a font. It's what's called got a Devanagari text. And I can't read that. What I can do is I can read the Romanized when it's put into our alphabet with the right diacritic marks. We get to know what's happening, how to pronounce it. So just to explain something, most people understand the word karma, Karma, and they think that that word means a reaction, an action and a reaction. But if we look at the word karma in English with a K, we could technically say it with a C, karma. You could still spell it with a C instead of a K. Now, when the ancient Greeks went to the Indian culture, they used to go on summer holidays and listen to the gurus speak. That's where the wisdom of Greece comes from in general. They picked up that word karma and they respelt it. They spelt it Krime. They pronounced it crime to the best of my ability. But that word is actually in English in the modern day. Would you like to have a stab and think what word that might be, Jerry?
Crime.
Crime. There you go. So this is what I call crypto-Sanskrit. There's evidence that it's got a connection, even though there may be thousands of years of broken down from its original to the 21st century that we're talking now. And most people don't realize this, but the word navigati means the science of navigation.
Makes sense.
So it's the original word for navigate. And the people, it's a Sanskrit word, and what it essentially is telling us is that the Indians knew about the high seas and travelled thereon much earlier than any Europeans. One might say that if you look at European naval history, it's not really very old. The Scandinavians are maybe the most well equipped as Europeans to do navigation, but actually I can connect the Sanskrit, the crypto-Sanskrit, even to the Scandinavians or the Norsemen. So just 1 second, I'll just bring in Santos. We tried to make this go, that's the original slide, and we tried to make it go forward by those buttons. Oh, here we go. Yeah, okay, it is working. So I've been studying crypto-Sanskrit now for 40 odd years, and I've had many spiritual masters or teachers that have helped me understand my way around Sanskrit. So I don't use there's a devotional side of things, and then there's a scientific side of things, and it's not that they're separate, they're actually connected. However, what I'm suggesting here is I'm going to just take you now briefly through a series of slides I prepared just for a PowerPoint. I'm just hoping they're all in order there, Jerry. We'll see which is the one.
I'm hearing that noise again.
Yeah, because the mouse has to be in my searches.
Okay.
I don't think that these are in order. Let's just say we'll try and keep this going along nicely. Obviously, that's the Antarctic Treaty. What we want to look at is...
Can you click it on the left box you want it on?
Can you see what we're looking at now?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like a...
Okay.
Little...
So I don't really want to use that images. I'm just showing you how they distort photography. See how that there's a... It's just all distortions in this particular shot. But most cameras don't distort. The actual idea is that they actually can convert light into a rectangle. You follow through a round lens into a rectangle. Anyway, we'll just see where we are.
Fisheye lens, GoPro lens.
Yeah, these don't seem to be in order for some reason. Okay. So this is the standard model of the world. We're told that that's called the blue marble. It's got a nice hardcore center, and this is all nonsense, of course. And this is perhaps why people become a bit sentimental about the ball Earth. If you have a look at these two cutaways, you'll see that there's the heart shape there. And so that's a subliminal way where people go, oh, I feel so comfortable with this model. But actually, there's nothing comfortable at all about it. It's totally ridiculous. Anyway, so here we can see it again. This is the azimuthal AE on the left-hand side of my picture anyway, and a distorted projection, just to suck people in. But people don't mind that term. What I need to do, though, really, why don't we try and sort this out? Why don't I go on with this map and explain the map for a second? We're going to just switch back to the camera rather than the slideshow.
Sure. Whatever you like. Well,
I've got to have it more efficient because otherwise I'm umming and ahhing too much, which is no good. Okay. So what are we looking at now?
You can see this?
I mean, it's it's kind of... I can kind of see that. I know that that's Australia down there to the right, but that's, to the right there, right?
We can't see. Can you see any better with the camera on it that way?
I mean, it's right in the middle, It's just, can you zoom in a little bit? Can you hear me? Any way to zoom in or no? No, maybe not. It's good enough.
Not really.
It depends what you have to say. I guess it's good enough.
Is that better?
That's a little closer. Just aim it at us a little bit more.
But look, what I might be able to do is just hand hold.
That looks pretty good right there. I mean, wow.
Focus. What about now?
That's beautiful, beautiful. It's much better.
So what we're gonna
Trust me, that's a lot better.
Okay. So let's just concentrate on the map for a minute and we'll try and get the slideshows organised in a moment. Okay, so what we're looking at here, just so we know, is a standard azimuthal equidistant projection. But I made this one myself. In the centre we have what's called a Sri Yantra. The Sri Yantra is a specific diagram. It is actually Om, or the sound vibration on, but it's in an illustration rather than a font. What I've done, as Santos just mentioned, is there is 24 separate Om symbols here in 24 separate languages. Because I've been focusing on the idea that when the Christians say, in the beginning was the word, I don't think it was a word. I think it was a sound. In the beginning was the sound of creation, which is known as Omkara. So Santos also mentioned that there's a lot of dialogue in this map. And this map is made of some of the stuff from the Gleason map, Alexander Gleason, And I have the rulers here, the grid around the outside, this grid. But technically speaking, this is not Gleason's map. So can you still see this more clearly, or are you getting some of it now?
Yeah. Just listening.
So on the left-hand side here, if we just point ever so slightly up and left, I just put in some dialogue here. This map, this is a bit of a joke, I looked on the internet to how to make a map, and there was no self-help guide, so it sort of allowed me to do anything I wanted.
Nice.
So what I did is, rather than a visual here, we're all filled up with place names and all busy, what I decided to do was to put the science in texts here. So what I've actually worked out is how to describe our world from the Sanskrit or Vedic perspective, and then put it into an open book. So this particular post has been laminated, and that's why it's staying straight. But up here, for instance, on the left, have you ever heard of this idea A equals 432 in the musical scale?
I'm not very musical. No, go ahead.
Never mind that. What I'm saying is that Wagner changed the scale of A, or the tone of A, to 440 hertz.
Oh, right.
It should be 432 hertz.
To be more harmonic, back to harmony.
Yeah, so what in this scale here, in this box over here on the left, is explaining where the notes would be if you altered A to 432. And there's a really important reason why, and here it goes. If we go back to the center of the Earth, the North Pole, called the Meru Dunda, or Axis Mundi, to the equator is 90 degrees from center. But the equator, the measurement, which is 21,600 nautical miles, if you double the radius, the next here, this outside circle is 432, or 43,200. So it now corresponds to the sound A, if you follow the logic in the numbers. So I'm using what I call Vedic math scale, and 108 and its multiplications of are very, very important because it's to do with distances, it's to do with long time. So we live in an age called Kali Yuga, and the Kali Yuga is for 432,000 years in length. So that number 432 has now come up 3 separate times, and it's all connected to the code. So when we look at Flat Earth and we look at religions and their understandings, they've all got a bit of a handle on it, some to a better degree and others to a lesser degree. But ultimately, the first religious practices were Sanskrit-based here on this world we live on. And they expressly say that this place is called Bhumandala, or it's called Sudarshana Dweep, which means the disk of islands. Dweepa means island. Sudarshana means round circle. It's a chakra. It's also this, you could also call this place Karma, Loka. So we'll get back to that word Loka, L-O-K-A. In English we say local or locality. It means realm. And all we've done is change the C for the K again to understand that that word is Sanskrit based. So if we look at the primary words in Sanskrit, I'm sorry I haven't got some slides here, but I'll just say it to you quite openly. The word astra means star. The word trigonometry means trigonometry, or the maths of 3 corners, corner, trigonometry. It's when it goes into the Greek, they add the G instead of the K. Navigati arithmetic. So all the sciences originally have a Sanskrit name. And in order to be a navigator, you have to understand cartography, meaning trigonometry, or the maths of three angles. And the reason is because when we travel on the water, we're traveling in what's called vectors. It means that we've got currents and winds maybe helping us or going across our path, and we have to change our direction into the wind, etc., to arrive at our destination using navigation. So getting back to the point I'm sharing is that here on this map is all the Vedic maths. If you just pan down a tad, come down a tad, you'll see all sorts of amounts of dialogue here, Jerry.
Wow.
And the reason is because it is a poster designed to show the actual truths about where we live. And it's not a case that, I'll just move my camera. So the idea here is that if you notice, doesn't matter what language your natural language is, you might notice an Om sign in the 24-hour circle. And therefore you might be attracted. But what I'm doing is I've already had this translated into French. So I'm going to release the same map in many, many languages.
Nice.
Okay? In the very top part, I've actually got the Hare Krishna mantra in 24 separate languages as well. And the reason is because we need, on this flat world, it is a creation. And what we need to do is all realize we're in the karma soup, if you follow the logic. We're here learning action and reaction. So it doesn't matter about whether we believe that or not. Just by the way, I use that word belief as an example of what to throw out of your vocabulary. The word belief has the word lie in the middle of it. And if you listen carefully to the politicians and the other guys, they will tell you what they believe. And usually there's not one stick of truth in their beliefs. So I'm interested in faith. And I don't mean that that's belief without facts or other things like that. I'm just simply saying that we have worked out, the human race has worked out where they exist, where they reside, where their abode is, what it's about. And the authorities have been keeping it from us, excuse me, under this illusion of the ball. So I pointed this out to Sanatan the other day, or Santos I should say. I use Google Earth to get all my measurements because I've understood that Google Earth are using flat Earth measurements, but they've got an algorithm that presents all the images come round as a ball. And the other day I was just scrutinizing who supplied the image, and it said image digital Copernicus. So we now know, bad luck, Google Earth, we now know that you're using the algorithm called Copernicus to wrap the measurements back around to an existence, a place that doesn't exist.
You can't make it up. You can't make it up.
No. Now, I'm just going to ask you a simple question. Are you familiar with those toys that they're called, you would call them punch toys, where the children hit them, they're blown up figures of air, like a ball, but they're in a stand-up. You know what I'm talking about? And they've got a heavy weight in the bottom of sand, and you punch them, and they stand back up.
Oh, yes, sure I do. Sure.
Okay, so the reason they stand back up is called center of gravity. They put the heaviest weight in the bottom of a round foundation, yeah?
Yes.
You follow the logic?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so if we were in a rotating world that tilted 23.4 degrees, most people don't realise this, but we've looked into it exhaustively. Australia, as an island or a continent, is on average, all 2.5 million square miles, we're on average 1,083 feet above sea level. We have the longest, straightest, flattest roads and the longest, straightest, flattest railways on the earth. They don't deviate. They're really amazing, the facts and figures. What was I saying this? Oh, yes. So in Asia, the average height of Asia is 3,000 feet above sea level. That has the Tibetan Plateau, Nepal, Bhutan, the Himalayas, the Mahabharat Range, and all these amazing mountains, etc. And it's 3,500 feet on average above sea level. So when you go to Antarctica and you look it up, it's 8,000 feet above sea level. It is 5,000 feet higher on average than the whole of Asia. Now, if that land mass was on the bottom of a rotating ball, the rotation and the mass on the bottom of the ball would make it stand up. There would be no pole tilt.
Think about it. Think about it. Exactly.
So, essentially, what I want to share with you is when we look at this subject of flat Earth, because we're so much stuck in the beliefs of our education, we really have to look at this subject laterally rather than go down their already established wormholes that just get people bamboozled. There is only one ocean. It just has multiple names in different places around the world because no one until the 21st century, since the Sanskrit navigators, has actually understood the world. Because when we say Egyptian civilization, there's no way on earth that they actually knew this whole round place. When I say they actually knew it, I mean that means that they named it. So what I've done here in this particular map, if you have a look, I set the meridian here at Eugene, and Eugene, in that particular meridian, there are multiple planetariums or cosmologies.
That's not me, man.
It's okay. It's just me. Keep going.
Okay. Look at Santa.
So will I go on? Yeah. Okay. So this was the center of the world, Eugene, which was what we would now call general mean time, Greenwich Mean Time. This was the ancient world. And what we're looking at now is there's the tip of India down here. This is called Bharata Varsha, which means if you have a look at the geological place names through Southeast Asia, Bali is known as Bali Bharat. Irian Jaya is known as Papua Bharat, and India's name is Bharata Varsh. Yeah? So this place was all known, and at the same time, so was the whole of the east coast of Africa. So what I'm going to do now is I'll sort of run you through this roughly. When we look at Hinduism, I don't like that word, we'll just use it as a collective.
Okay.
Look at Vedic culture. There are 33 million demigods. One for the wind, one for water, one for all the planets, the stars. There's what's called a universal management structure where God himself doesn't have to manage it. He's got very clever associates who can manage it. Now, we would have heard of the sun god and the moon god and the god of death and things like that. But in Egyptian, you can't name these countries around the world in ancient Egyptian. You can't do it in ancient Greece, and you can't do it in Latin. You can do this with Sanskrit. So now what I'll just do briefly is a Sanskrit geography lesson. Here is Bharat, And here is, for instance, Bhutan's up here in Nepal, the Tibetan Plateau. And here in this part of India is a place called Rajasthan. Sthana means place or state. Of Rajas means the kings. Rajasthan. And if we have a look at all the sthanas up through here, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, all that area, all the way through, probably to the Arctic Circle, were sthanas named after peoples like the Afghans, Afghanistan. Now, Pakistan's somewhat different because that was created relatively recently, about 51 years ago, 55 odd years ago, whatever it was. So, next place along here, major superculture, is called Sumeria. Well, that would be Meru Aryans. Sumeru Aryans means auspicious mountain in the middle. The Meru is the mountain in the middle. Now that doesn't mean it's a geophysical mountain. It's not made of rock. It's made of energetics because it's the magnetic center of the flat disk. So if we look now then at what you would call Sumerian, that means the Aryans, Aryan means pure in your spiritual awareness. It does not mean anything to do with genetics. And we'll find that out like the word vegetarian, pure in your vegetable eating. Fruitarian, pure in your fruit eating, Aryan. So we can have a look around further here. So this place here is Arabia. And in Sanskrit, the word Arava, not Arava, Arava means horse. So that was called Aravashtan before it was Muslimized, one might say. Before Islam really changed the cosmology a little here and there, whatever. Just up here on what's called the east coast, one might say, of the Mediterranean. If we listen to the word Mediterranean, it's actually Madhya Dara. Dara, terra and Dara is the same word. Madhya means middle of the earth. Like civilization, but again named in Sanskrit. And over here there's a country called Syria, but they don't call themselves Syria, they call themselves Surya, and Surya means sun god. And this horn of Africa is called Somalia, and the god of the moon is called Soma Chandra, and the god of death is called Yama, and this is called Yemen. So all around the world, the entire world has already been named in Sanskrit. It's only got to be remembered or refound out. Absolutely. So, do we understand what I'm getting at?
Absolutely, like Arizona, zone of the Aryans.
So, if you're not far from Mexico as a neighbor, and there's this little township there called a Chihuahua. Chihuahua means that little dog. Yeah, they say they have the same thing. Now that's a mispronunciation of the word Shiva. Va means temple of Shiva. And I'm not sure if you know this, but Shiva has a partner called Kali. So above Chihuahua, Mexico is California. And below in Central America, South America is the country's called Colombia, and the second city is called Kali, and the people are called Kali Ma. And that means that they are Kali worshippers originally. So you've got Shiva in the middle, and Kali either side, north and south. And I can show you this sort of dialogue in Turkey, where there's a place there called Shiva's Province, and all the townships have names like Kali and Durga. So what I'm speaking about, primarily most people won't have any knowledge of what I'm speaking about, and I hope I'm making it relatively easy to grasp. But let's understand something very simple. When the two most famous European discoverers, Columbus, came out of here, He went around Greenland, Iceland, North America. And his boat was 62 feet long. 62 feet. Amazing. What a machine. When Vasco da Gama came out of Portugal, he went down along the the west coast of Africa, all the way around till he came to Zanzibar, or in this place, it's called Arun Odadi, or the Red Sea, by the way. When Vasco came, his boat was 82 feet long, and he found 3 ocean ships with fully capped manned crews, and he asked them, do you know where India is? And they said, we're going there. And he describes apparently in his diary that the ships of India were 10 and 12 times bigger than his 82-foot ship.
Wow.
His ship's 82 feet, and he's saying the boats are at least 820 to 1,080 feet long.
Wow.
So they naturally escorted him to India, and then, of course, as Europeans do, he came back and said, I've discovered India. Well, yeah, sure. As if India was lost and needed rediscovery.
Right. It couldn't find its way home.
Now, one of the other ways to understand what I'm getting at, they have such amazing sea craft that even the word ahoy there, is Sanskrit-based language. It has travelled all the way through to the modern-day sailors. Because what Europeans usually do is they pick the eye teeth out of it, best fruit in the store, and then they create it as if it's theirs. Aren't we clever? But actually what they did, just so we know, is that when the Europeans, they were struggling with each other because they always have. Christians against Christians, French against Germans, Germans against Italians, it goes on, whatever it does, the histories. They always pray to their same Messiah, please save us and kill them off. Totally ridiculous, if you understand the logic, because they're all going to die. They've got sharp swords and weapons. But why would they pray to a Lord that the other people are praying to as well? To me, it's silly. Anyway, so Europeans have always been bickering with each other, and they want to dominate Europe. They want to dominate Middle Earth, Madhyadara, the Mediterranean. And so the primary fight in the Middle Ages, no, later than that, is between Spain and England, and then eventually it was between England and France. And the idea was who could get general mean time. Paris wanted the timeline, and so did England, but England had superiority on the ocean, and as a result, the Indians colonized India. So they got huge boons in knowledge, because in India they have a book called the Nava Shastra, means the scripture, the actual manual on how to build seaworthy ships. So when we look into the history of boats that they find in estuaries and quagmires and bogs around Europe, they might say, oh, look, they've been double-lapped or something like that, which will make them much more watertight. Well, in India at the time, in this Nava Shastra, scripture of naval shipbuilding, you could order the ship what you wanted. They were all illustrated, blueprinted, easily manufactured along the west coast, particularly of India. But what the British did, apparently, under the East India Trading Company, is they ordered the ships and then had them built. The clipper ships, you know, the clipper ships, the really fast ocean-going ships that could bring the spices to Europe, they were Indian design and built. And then the British dismantled, by law and legislation and all sorts of things, they dismantled the Indian naval system. And of course the difference is the Indians, they don't bring armies with their navy. they're not military based, believe it or not. Yes, there is military command, but if you can look at this up yourself, but one fairly recent ambassador, a Chinese ambassador to America, he said that the Indians colonized China for 2,000 years and never put one soldier across the border.
Wow.
So when people look at in Chinese stuff like feng shui, which means laying out your architecture in a nice energetic flow, etc., the original thing is called Vastu Shastra, Shastra of architecture, the scripture of architecture. So if you look into any of the ancient temples around the world, you can see that there are many similarities and there are some peculiar differences, one might say. But India not only built the ships, but actually made prefabricated temples. They cut them in stone in India, load them onto ships, and then they ship them and then erect them, which would, of course, if you imagine that a ship unloads its dock, not like Captain Cook, who unloaded them, barefoot pirates and or whatever, blue coats. Now, these guys unload an entire stone temple, and this is their gift. Hello, we're here again. We haven't seen you for a while, but you don't do the temples here, we do. So it's like temple IKEA, you might say, if you want to.
Nice. Wow.
And in Sydney, in Homebush Bay, there is a Hindu temple that was completely constructed in India and shipped here. So they still do it. They've got ships, they metal ships, etc. So if I look at certain words like the country called Chile, think about that in Sanskrit, and I'll go Shila, Shila, which means hills, rocks, or mountains. And then I'll go Shila became Chile, which means the Andes mountains. That's why the Chile is so high. Means rocks and mountains, technically speaking. So let's have a look quickly then back at the oceans themselves.
Okay.
Okay, so Bharata here, and this is called the Mahabharata, or the Greater Indian Ocean.
Okay.
In English, down here in the latitudes here, we call this the Great Southern Ocean, right? Because we're the closest. Well, we're not necessarily. They're closer in South America, but I think there's less South Americans down at Patagonia. Population-wise, it's not so nice. We're certainly closer than South Africa. So the Mahabharata, and the word is called Prasagara. Prasagara means Great Ocean. And we only have an inner and an outer. We don't have a north and south ocean, because that's ridiculous. You only have inside the equator or outside.
Exactly.
So when we look at the ocean that you are closest to, the Atlantic, this is called the Upland Prasagara, because in Sanskrit the word Upland is referring to a series of Tala lokas. Tala means underneath. So in this model, we've got 7 esoteric levels above us to heaven, I might say, 7 heavens. We've got 7 levels below. They're called the Tala, Atala, where they get the word Atalantis. It means, another way of saying it is it's in the outlands. You see, here's the civilization, virtually 12 opposites. So if the sun's bright here on a flat world, they're definitely in most part of the night here. Sorry, in America. So the They call America technically the underworld, technically in Sanskrit, and the word Talan becomes the word Tolan, Tolan, which is actually a Mexican description of their own country. I don't know if you know that. We call them Mexicans. They don't. Apparently in their ancient charts, they use the word Tolan or Talan. And then, so this also tells you that Atlantis was known in ancient Sanskrit way before the Greeks got the story. And over here, the third ocean is called Shanti. In Sanskrit, the word Shanti means peace or pacific, pacify. So its original name is the Maha Shanti Prasagra, the Great Peaceful Ocean. This is the way Atlands, the outlandish or the outlands. These are sorts of words in English that explain Atlandesh. So in Sanskrit or in Indian, when the two Pakistans, George Harrison got involved with the East Pakistan, and he changed that country's name to Bangladesh. And Bangladesh means the place of the Bengalis. So Atlandesh means the place of the Atlants, right? Atlantis, that's D and T interchanged by the Greeks. Does that make sense?
I'm absolutely loving this. I mean, you have no idea how grateful I'm absolutely, how it fits. It's so incredible. I'm really loving this. Go ahead. This is
well, I'm
beautiful.
sorry I'm a bit all over the shop, to say the least, and the next time we talk, I'll be much better prepared, but we'll go on. Now, the word Veda has a root word, vid, V-I-D. It is the root word of Veda. And Veda means knowledge, Vedic. So my map is called the New Standard Vedic Map of the World, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's new because I made it in the 21st century, but the dialogue is thousands of years old.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
So, for instance, in this box over here, we have the days of the week, which are the first 7 planets. When we say planets in Sanskrit, we would say graha, which means they're an energetic field rather than something solid. And they are wandering, whereas we are not. So we are not on a planet. We're stationary. We're the central focus. And the reason we're the central focus is because karma is dealt with here. You can't go from the esoteric world to the ethereal worlds back to Godhead. You have to reincarnate here, because this is where you have to deal with your ego. This is where you have to deal with your identity, your soul identity, your spiritual personality, not the body, not the constructs of my mum registered my name and blah, 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 blah. Okay? Because the Christian name is pertaining to the body, because the parents don't know the nature of the soul of their child until it grows up. As it's growing up, they may know its nature. In the beginning, they just want to see fingers, toes, ears, eyes all working. So they give the child a material body name, not a soul name. And that's why I don't use my material body name. I use my soul name, because that's what my spiritual master or my Guru Maharaj gave me. And just by the way, the word achintya means inconceivable. It means in Sanskrit beyond your mind and intelligence. My Guru Maharaj has given me this name that says I'm the servant. Das means servant. It's not up there, but it's over here, by the way. Das means servant of the inconceivable Godhead.
Wow.
Probably why I got this information. I'd already been studying Vedic cosmology, though, for 35 odd years. It's not like I wasn't prepared, but I did have to make a quantum jump from global to, I call it big pond.
I like that.
So we have a company here called Telstra, And Telstra originally had a new internet business. They had a new name for their internet business, and they called it Telstra Big Pond. And of course, excuse me, and when of course you use the word big pond, you get people away from the term flat earth, which they've got an automatic response to, knee-jerk response to. They don't know what to say when you say big pond. But that's the description, you see. So this is an 8,000 feet high wall on average, of course much higher and lower in places, holding all these oceans, 8,000 feet towering above this water.
Wow.
Right? Now when we're looking at Australia, just by the way, I said that the longest, straightest road, it's actually here. It's about 140 kilometres long, or 98 miles, I think, something like that. And the height variance is 100 feet from end to end off the sea. The straightest road. Also, the straightest railway, it's the Indian Pacific, and it goes 478 kilometres in a dead straight line. You can do the maths. It's it's almost 15 degrees. Not quite. It's probably about 6 degrees or something like that. Maybe 478 k's is a long way. And what I really think, though, just so we know, is it's probably in an arc. And the reason is because they use a magnetic compass to do their measurements. So now I'm going to just sort of skip for a little bit and just discuss why we know for an absolute fact that the world is flat.
Okay.
Where you guys live, most flat earthers live inside the equator. And they've never seen or done measurements from outside of the equator. This is Copernicus, Newton, every one of them. Talking about stuck in the middle.
Galileo Kepler.
The actual area, right?
Yep.
We look at the area and do what's called the pizza technique, right? Watch this. If the small pizza is the 6-inch pizza and the 12-inch pizza is double the size, how much extra area do you think there is? It's up to you to answer. What's the area? This one in the middle to the equator, and the one from the equator to the outside. What's the difference in area?
Oh, I mean,
well, I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
This is 1/5, and each quadrant outside is another 5th. So this is 4 times bigger in area than the central piece.
Wow.
And most scientists have done all their measurements from inside the equator. And of course, I'm lucky enough to have done all my measurements from outside the equator. Okay. So that root word vid is also the root word of the word video. It just so happens. So vid is the word for Veda, meaning knowledge, and video, meaning camera, for the moment. And what video does is it locks audio and visuals together. Yeah, that's what it does. And I've been doing video since 1985. So when I came across this camera, you cannot work it out, flat earth, without this baby. And I don't doing adverts for corporations, but there's the ad.
Right. Is that the Nikon 900, baby? Is that the 900?
Yeah. And if you really want to, look, there it is. There's the baby.
83 times, it says. Beauty.
But this thing is a handful, right? It's top heavy, front heavy.
Oh.
And it's also, I've got a heavyweight plate on this camera. And the reason is because you need a heavyweight tripod. Because in full zoom, if you move this even a micromillimeter, it's like 400 meters or half a mile across the sky.
Big time. Sure. Big time.
So I'll bring the camera back into the fore in a second because there's something more interesting to talk about for a minute.
Okay.
I'm a Hare Krishna. I'm a plainclothes Hare Krishna. I don't dress like Hare Krishna. It doesn't matter. We all have our interests, our own way, etc. The Hare Krishnas have only been in the West for 50 years. And essentially what their mission is to make people become aware that Krishna is God, become vegetarian, sort out your karma, change your lifestyle, become healthy, happy and wise, create the alternative way, the happy alternative, etc. The higher way, you say. So they're building a temple. It's called the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium. TOVP. You can look it up on the net yourself, and you'll see that they're building the biggest dome in the world. And they're going to put the 7 levels above, remember the esoteric levels, and the 7 levels below the earth, they're going to put that in a model of rotating lights and exhibit, except it's in the biggest dome in the world. So it's going to be 14 stories with 3 separate viewing galleries, where Krishna's in the top of the dome at the highest point, and his whole management of the universe is laid out so you can look at it from above and below. Mm. So, as a Hare Krishna, I wanted to know whether the ball Earth fitted in their cosmology or not. And it doesn't. Quite simply, it just doesn't fit. So my main mission has actually been to find the science and evidence to prove to the Krishnas who are building the temple, hey folks, we need to put a flat earth map of the world in the floor of the temple.
Nice.
It's a round dome floor where we are here on earth. So to me, that's what you do, is you put a flat earth projection into the marble and stone floor, where then everyone can dance on the true earth, right, or a model of the true earth
reality
as we exist. So that's one of my own private crusades, and that's primarily why I released this map. I didn't know Photoshop. This took 2 years of absolute hard work. The 2 years was to find this dialogue and present it in a did I grab your attention sort of mood. Will you read a bit more of it if you get it? So if you look at this poster in an A3 format, you'll need a magnifying glass to read the text. But if you get the poster in this A0 format, you can read all of this. Any living being, even if they need optical glasses, will read it bang, straight off like that. So this is the idea, is to attract people to the idea that there's a Vedic creation, a Vedic cosmography, and a Vedic cosmology. And there's also a history of the world governed by Vedic understanding. It really is that simple.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm all in. I'm going to have to get one for sure. Guaranteed. It's a no-brainer for me.
Thank you. So what we'll do is we'll get the address sent to us and we'll pop them in the mail. However, they're already in tubes, all ready to go. They're a little bit expensive to mail from outside the equator.
Yeah, you guys are what is considered outside of the loop. Look at Santos. I hear Santa. What's up, bud? I love it. I love it.
I'm here.
There he is. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, brother. I love it. Yeah, you guys are outside of the loop, man.
Well, the point is that if you're in the loop, you've got to get out of the loop, right? Otherwise, you can't think clearly because of the other noise in the room.
Sure, sure. I love it. I love it.
So, for instance, what I'm getting at is there are other logics that tell you whether the Earth is flat or not. So here's one. I took my camera into maritime safety, and this is what I did. It's on the border of Queensland and New South Wales, which is right on this eastern edge here of Australia, where the border changes from New South Wales to Queensland. That's sort of an incidental. But there's a maritime safety unit there, right? So they've got their computers, and I went there with my camera on a tripod, And I said, what protocols do I have to do to get my camera in your office? And they said, well, we're a public service. And I said, I'm a member of the public. And they said, come in then. So anyway, I went there twice. The first time just to be friendly and kind, you know, just to do the proper sort of recon, see what they're doing, and at the same time establish respectful protocols. And then I went there a second time with a different mission. So the second time I went there, I actually asked my associate, well, I'll keep his name out of this show for the moment because he's still getting over the problem. We were following a boat down along this east coast. We would say from the Gold Coast down past Byron Bay. That's the specific area off the coast. And just as I was about to leave, I said to him, do you actually understand the measurements of the Earth? And he did. And he wrote up on the whiteboard, I caught it all on video, 5,400 miles in a quadrant, each quadrant at the equator. That's correct. And I said, well, what about curvature? What do you reckon the law of curvature is? So he looked at me and he didn't quite get it. And I said, look, would you believe that curvature is 0.318? And he's looking at me going, are you kidding? What are you saying to me? Now, most people are misled by this Eric DeBay's, and it's not his. He got it from Rowbotham. The mile squared times 8 inches.
Oh, okay. This is Vedic astronomy. Vedic astronomy, yes.
It's absolute bullshit. Excuse my French. It's nonsense because if you get their measurement 24,901 because they're using statute miles and you multiply it by itself and then you add the 8 inches, and then you divide by miles and feet, etc., you get 78,000 miles. So nobody bothered to go to the end of the equation and go, and let's break this equation back down. And the reason is because a circle is perfectly constant. There's no exponential law here. So miles squared is exponential, therefore that law has to be thrown away in the bin. But what there actually is what's called true curvature. Now, how do we understand curvature? Well, on a flat plane, we've got to get around the equator. Or we've got to get around Tropic of Cancer or Capricorn or Arctic Circle. Got to get around on a flat plane. Mm-hmm. So I just thought about this. You have roundabouts in the United States?
I wish we had more, yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
I just want to just share with you this really quickly. I'm going to do it myself anyway, but if someone beats me to the punch, that's up to them. I've got a Subaru, and it's got driving lights down the bottom, lower than the headlights.
Yep.
I'm going to pull a headlight. I'm going to pull one of the driving lights out, and then I'm going to put a camera sideways, not sitting flat in the light hole, but sitting sideways this way. And then I'm going to go and take my car around a roundabout. And then when I play the tape back, you're going to see that you can never ever see over a curve. It's impossible to see over a curve because a curve on a ball is in every direction simultaneously at once, constantly.
Yes.
So getting back to my maritime safety fellow, I'm looking at this ship and I said, look, one last glance, how far is the ship away? And he says it's 18 nautical miles, which means 18 minutes of arc. 1 nautical mile is a minute of arc. 60 nautical miles is a degree. Excuse me. I said, hey, Phil. Oops, I dropped his name. I said, hey, Phil, it's going past another boat. There's another boat on the horizon behind the one at 18 nautical miles. And I said to him, how far's the other boat? And he just goes, gives me a second. He goes, 32 nautical miles, which is half a degree. And both boats are absolutely flat to the horizon. And I'm at 100 feet high. Now, most people then say, yeah, but you're 100 feet high. And I go, well, let's get back to the maths then, because in every nautical mile there are 6,076 feet. So if you multiply 32 nautical miles by 6,000 feet, and then you divide 100 feet, you'll get a ratio of staggering proportions. Do you follow what I'm just saying? That 32 times 6,000 feet is 312,000 feet versus the 100 feet you've come off the deck. And all you can see further and further is boats on a flat plane.
Yeah,
it is simple.
Yeah.
It's very simple. So the reason I've looked into this so stringently is because I don't want to upset the Hare Krishnas who are building their temple, but at the same time I don't want them to make a ball earth fit where it shouldn't fit.
Sure.
So now getting back to what I said to you about this little piece of chart here and whether we're planets or not, graha. So graha means an energy, we want to say, a realm, and it's having an effect. And the grahas that are closest to us are Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn. And that's how the days of the week are numbered, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It actually, the days of the week are telling you how far those grahas are away from us. So the closest one is the Sun, and the Moon is the second one, and that's why you can't see the Moon when it goes behind the Sun on a new moon, is that you physically can't see it.
Exactly.
So these days of the week, which I've got here in Latin and Norse and everything along here, is just another way of understanding. We have ancient teachings from our past, including the days of the week in what order they're in, which tell us the cosmology of where we live. It's that simple, really is that simple. And what else could I tell you about? Okay, so this Sri Yantra, have you ever heard of the Sri Yantra?
Mount Meru?
Well, it's got 5 pointing up triangles and 4 pointing down.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Essentially, it's a vibrational frequency of Om.
Oh, okay.
So around this design, usually there are petals of the lotus flower. There are 8 in the first circle and 16 in the second circle. And the 8 is the A sound, R, and the 16 is the U sound, U, and the triangles represent the frequency of vibration of M. That's what this Sri Yantra here is. Okay? And these 4 Oms around the outside, excuse me, is because, of course, there must be a relationship between the inner and outer of the dish. But what I've done here is just, for instance, this one here is actually a math sequence. It's the Sanskrit letters of 7, 8, and 6. But it gives you the syllables or the symptoms that it is actually Om. So in Om, there's either a 3, there's a W, as in this way, sorry, that's an M, or a W.
Double V?
See?
Oh, yeah, double, yeah.
Okay, so these are, you've got to have that frequency. Now, this Om is not Om. This is Allah. That is the symbol for Allah, and what I've done is I've changed it from this angle to that angle, and now it shows you all the same symptoms of these other syllables of Om. Does that make sense?
I love it. I absolutely love that thing. I can't wait.
So in the beginning, it's the sound, and the sound was with God. That is actually the creation sequence according to the Vedic understanding that's been adjusted so slightly by the religions that have come after. That's currently really what the truth is. I hope I'm not offending anyone, but truth sometimes offends people. What can you say? You can say it in a humble state of mind, but some people will be upset. But the Hebrew people, etc., who have the Old Testament, they're not that old compared to the Sanskrit. And they do have most of the Sanskrit dialogue in Hebrew. Same with Islam, same with Christianity. They mostly have 7 heavens. We've heard that in Christian terms, 7 heavens.
Yeah.
We have, but they are actually there as locations, more ethereal and more powerful. But at the same time, the grahas, where the planets are, that's only one level. There's still many levels up above like that, because that's where the real cosmic organisation is going on. So now let's have a look at a different way to understand creation. So there's a particular piece of artwork you can see, and there is a demigod called Brahma, and he's sitting on a Padma, on a lotus flower, and he has 4 heads. He looks in 4 directions. And Brahma's wife, her name is Saraswati. She's known as the goddess of knowledge. He created it, and she knows everything about it. She knows more of knowledge in this world than anyone else besides her husband. So Brahma and Saraswati are known in Hebrew as Abram and Sarai. And it says in a book called the Sefer Yetzirah, which is a Hebrew text, it says in one particular verse, the Lord of the universe was so pleased with Abram and Sarai, Sefer Yetzirah, beauty, thanks Santos. So it says specifically that the Lord of the universe was so happy with their behaviour that he gave Ha, a syllable of his name, to both of them each. So Abram became Abraham, and Sarai became Sarah. But in Sanskrit we don't pronounce the last A. Sarah.
So just Sarah. Yeah, Abraham and Sarah.
So the name of the Lord of the universe is Jagannath. Jagannath is known as the Lord of the universe. I use this symbol here down the bottom of my map to show the Lord of the universe. And you'll have seen this as a smiley face in different esoteric places around, where you live. I'm sure you would have seen that this smiley face is...
Yeah, the electromagnetic field. The electromagnetic field.
My clock.
Hello?
Whoops, sorry. Can you see it?
Oh, yes, I see it now. Yeah. Oh, wow.
On my fridge.
Oh, yeah.
That's Jagannath. He is.
Okay.
If you've seen my presentations, you'll know that you can see its magnetic force, as you can see the 2
of course.
eyes
Absolutely.
being the vortex of energy, of magnetism, rotating magnetism.
The 2 north and south poles are the holes for the souls to see through.
Yeah, so one of the things that's most important is what's really important in my understanding is this. It doesn't really matter to us whether we live on a ball or a plate, because we're still doing the basic fundamental things for surviving. We're trying to eat, sleep, we're trying to find a lover or a family, mate, and defend. We're defending our position, we're trying to have to pay the bills, we're defending the walls of the castle, you know what I mean?
Yes.
On that level, we're all busy, but why are we fighting an illusion? That's the most important thing that we need to clarify. And the reason is because our so-called born-to-rule class people in this world, most of them probably know this dialogue is real. At the highest echelons, they know this dialogue is real, but they're keeping us like you take your child to the kinder or to the preschool. It's wanting to work its way out of there to find its parents. And hopefully it won't work its way out of there it'll stay in the kindergarten. So God wants us to know we're in the kindergarten, if you follow. We're here to experience life, karmic reactions. The authorities know that as well, but they don't want us to know that. They don't even want us to know where we are, because God doesn't want taxes from you. God doesn't want the counterfeit currencies and monies and nonsense. God wants your intelligence. He wants your love, your affection, so he can have a relationship, reciprocate with us. And if anyone thinks what I'm saying is madness, even Jesus tells you the kingdom of God is within you. But you've got to do certain criteria, become vegetarian, become karma-free, and these sorts of things before you can open up a dialogue box with God. It's very, very simple, and there's no words. It's only feelings. And the feelings from here are translated into the brain. Oh, perhaps I should look over here. Perhaps I should go there. And perhaps I should avoid that or this. So if Flat Earth helps people become more in touch with the fact that this is created, because the random ball spinning in space, chasing a star that's trying to explode and all that nonsense, gives us no perception of how important we are. And it also gives us no perception of how important the sun is and the moon. They've been serving us for millennia. They serve this world whether it's habited by humans or not. They go round and round, do their duty, giving out energy, photosynthesis for chlorophyll, which is plant-based foods for civilized living beings to eat. And that means karma-free. And once we understand our good karma and our bad karma, then we suddenly start to realize karma's no good actually at all, because it invites you back to incarnate. Now, people at this point can say, I don't believe in reincarnation. And this is my answer. Reincarnation doesn't care what you believe.
Exactly.
And karma does not care whether you believe in karma or not.
Exactly.
It has no effect on karma or in reincarnation. And therefore, realization is the most important thing that we can actually have. Not what you or I believe. That's just rubbish. It's an emotional tool to what, you don't believe the same as me? Oh, mamma mia. Oh, we've got a crisis. You know, it goes on like this. And it's all whether you believe we're spinning to the left or spinning to the right. Thank you. So, seems we're not spinning at all, and they're rotating at us.
Whew, thank goodness. We'd never be able to do anything.
So this is the point I'll share with you. So the root word of video and the root word of Veda is vid. And then, of course, I've been doing video since 1985. You can see some of my work on the Sacred Space Project. It is my YouTube channel. Okay. Again, if you see my smiley face, you'll have found it. If you don't see that, you haven't found it. I don't plug it very hard because I'm doing the research. You can't do a lot of things.
Plug it all you want. Plug it all you want. Plug it. Whatever you want to do.
So in there you'll see interviews with people like Santos. You'll see interviews with Nassim Haramein. You'll see interviews with different gurus. And I haven't put Dan Winter up yet, but I could.
Because we need to spread truth. Spread the truth. We need to spread it all we can.
Yeah, so I make videos and I make them at my expense. Just so everyone knows, I don't actually ever ask for monies to transact. I make my films for the sake of making them. Having said that, what I needed to understand is long distance with this damn camera. And after going through many tripods over and over to try and stop the wobble, I spent $260 on a reasonably good tripod. And what I did is, from this east coast, I went to Byron Bay, which was about 50 nautical miles, 50 minutes maybe is better, by road from where I lived, and I could see the sea from where I lived. So with this camera, I could literally get up, see the sunrise, the moon rise, or Jupiter, or whatever I wanted to see rise and set. And then I went down to the coast to see how far along the coast I could see. And because Byron sticks out on the easterly point, you can't see very far north nor south.
It's the easternmost point on the continent of Australia, Byron Bay.
Byron.
Okay, and there's a mountain there called Mount Warning, and it is the first place on the continent of Australia that receives the sun's light in the morning. Mount Warning.
Whoa, that's so cool.
And what it also, in its indigenous name, it's called Wollomben, which means cloud catcher. So it's a governing feature of the weather patterns, and it's what Captain Cook first saw when he came along this coast, etc.
Wow.
Anyway, what I worked out was that when I looked to the north from this secondary point, which is called Point Danger, I now call it Flat Earth Lookout. And the reason is because I could see so far up the coast. It was staggering. And the first thing I saw was a bomb radar, Bureau of Meteorology radar. And so I sent an image of it to Ports Brisbane, which is the capital of Queensland, and then another one to Maritime Safety. And they sent me back saying they thought it was a bomb radar somewhere else. They had no idea about the place I was making photos of. But to cut to the chase, here's the point. This is how we understand it. Can you just look at me for a second through the camera? Jerry?
Okay, I'm looking at you.
Okay, so let's just have a look.
That way. You want me to look?
Camera.
Okay.
Now watch my eyes. And this is the sea. My hand is the sea. Tides and currents and all sorts of motion in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
Imagine my eyeball is the actual distant object, and then the sea just comes up to high tide, and then comes down to low tide, and then up to high tide like that.
Okay.
So over distance, what's actually blocking your vision is the motion in the ocean. Whether it's condensing, evaporating, so much salt, whether it's boat craft, ocean ships, etc., they are creating multiple waves across this point here, right, which is our horizon mark. And if it goes up and down and you can't see properly, then you naturally think that's curvature. Well, it isn't at all, because between me and the object might only be 40 miles of sea. And all that's happening is between us is this sort of motion in the ocean, right?
Yep.
So the tide is moving upwards. I'm trying to get this in a single understanding. It's moving from south to north along the coast. So if you time it that the tide is the lowest halfway between you and the object, you must have the least amount of interruption, the clearest coastline. And that's something else most people don't have the fortune to be able to do. But where I was living, this Flat Earth Lookout or Point Danger was like going to the shops, about 20 minutes drive, and I could literally go up to the border of the states, look directly north, and that's how I worked out what was deceiving my vision. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So for instance, if you looked across the Grand Canyon, from level to level, there are places that must be virtually level across it. And if you filled that up with water, then what you would see, just to the top, you'd just see a little bit of a drop off, then flat water, and then a little bit of an incline. And that's what's happening in great valleys across the sea, is that the water has filled it up. So when you imagine things properly and you pull the water out by mind power, you would see from where you're standing, say this finger, and you'll go down the sand till you find the flat bottom. and then you go along like that, and then it would just generally come up again. So if you could pull the water out, you can just see where the coastline, the flora line, right, the flora line, where the plant life begins at the top of the sand dune, and that would tell you again how flat the Earth truly is. It's a case that we're just misled, they're deceiving us, and they're trying to make us believe their deception, and it's just not on. It's very simple.
What? Slides?
Yeah, let's do some slides. Let's have a look at some slides. I'll see if I can show you some.
Okay. All right.
So we need to stop sharing screen. Got to get Jerry on first.
Might be a second.
Where's Jerry? There he is. Screen share.
I hope that was informative.
All right, there you go.
No, let's get a different folder, because they're not in order. That's what the problem is. They're just coming up random. I think it's around here where you had your slideshows there. We won't be a minute, just sorry for this brief.
Oh, no problem, too. No problem at all. No problem at all. No.
All right, where are you going?
Yeah, hold on. So go back up a tad. Up a little bit. There.
Yeah, that's where we were.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
As I say, they haven't really come out in order, but we'll just go with it. I'm going to move them on.
Nobody will know but you. Nobody will know but you.
Well, here's the most important thing to understand too, Jerry. Look, every single projection that they put on a flat plate is rubbish. They can say Mercator's projection and Gall-Peters projection. It's all make-up nonsense. Because in the grids that they're formatting here, they're not regulated. They're not. There's no way that this is a correct map of the world. It's very simple. How can you put a round ball onto a flat map?
It's insane.
They can't. It's impossible. That might be Mercator's where it shows, huge Africa and little Greenland. They go on and on about it. But the fact is, there's only one true shape of the world, and that's the round azimuthal equidistant projection centered on the North Pole. Now, one of the other things important to know on this screen here, can you see that image?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, so at the equator on the ball is halfway around, and we're moving at 1,037 miles an hour. Then as you go around to the North Pole or to the South Pole, you've got to be doing less speed.
Exactly.
Okay, so at the North Pole, if you could stand there, but you can't because there's no land, in a 24-hour period, you would move 15 degrees per hour, but stand stationary. The background would move, and you'd still be stationary, right?
Yeah.
So at a chart of the speed of the Earth, or if you were on a ball, every different degree all the way through from the pole to the equator, and the difference in various speeds you'd have to be doing. And of course, that doesn't equate with how we feel when we get off an aeroplane or something. We feel it's a stationary, flat place, the same as it is where I left.
Exactly.
So here we see some images of the Atlas, the Greco, they're holding up the world on his back. But of course, whoever made these things is very clever artist, but not very clever when it comes down to reality. Now, if we look here on the right-hand side of this particular picture, you'll see that Hercules, or Atlas, I should say, has now got a flat plate on his back.
Exactly.
Right? So there are plenty of images that tell us completely what the world's like. Now here, for instance, this is what's called the 10 avatars, or 10 avatars of Vishnu, and this one's been tampered with because Varaha, the center one, has got a ball on his tusks, whereas in the earlier images of Varaha, the ball incarnation of Vishnu, he only has a flat plate. Where do we go?
Oh, because I put you always got to put the mouse in the middle there.
Mouse in the middle.
Yep, and now that'll respond.
Okay, so 10 avatars, there's 10 of them, and Krishna is the 9th. But here's an ancient stone image of Varaha, and can you see how flat his head is?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes.
Because he's holding a flat plate earth. But the British would have dismantled that in their colonisation to get rid, so that they could pursue the Jesuit destruction of Vedic knowledge.
Or they'd put a ball on it.
So here again, this one's tampered with, but this one shows a flat plate. You see?
Yes.
So our ancient deities, and it's understood that some of the deities in the Vedic culture are more than 1 million years old, not what the British and others are saying. They're much, much older than we think. So let's just move on. See, there's two. One's called a bas relief. Actually, I think they're both bas relief. And it's got a flat nose for a flat plate. There's no ball that would be sitting there. But it's the same deity made of black basalt. So on the next one, we had this. I saw this photograph. You may have seen the turtle with the earth on its back. And there was this right smack in the middle of a paddock. And upside, a world on its right way, had a tortoise or a turtle on its back. I just grabbed that because I saw it there. There it is, how you would see it in the latest photo images sort of thing. Round earth, ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Now, here's what other people are doing. They're creating their illusions because they have to know what they need to know what's called the Copernican algorithm, right? All the places where they're supposed to be on a...
I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is the children being brainwashed in the, they're just playing with a toy.
Man.
But being brainwashed that this is how their world is. And then they do all these other different displays like this light illusion. And then this is one thing that you really shouldn't let your children do.
For decorative purpose only, not for education.
Well, you can see it. It speaks all the words it needs to speak after what we've been talking.
Yes.
And of course, this is what some people would like to do to these models.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Now, meanwhile, in the what do you call travel agents, you have all these maps all over the world. They're in different projections. This is all over the place. I really do apologise that these are not in order.
No
but
worries.
let's have a look at. We'll look at this slide for the moment. Loka, L-O-K-A, means location, local, locality. Astra, a star or a divine weapon. It comes in the word astrology, astronomy, and astronaut. Krishna, Christos, Christ, Christian, Christianity. Krishna is the origin of all those other words. Navigati, to navigate. Yuga, or an age. A mandala, which is a flat plane or dry diagram, two-dimensional flat diagram. Gola, which means a globe or a sphere. And there is no Bhugola in Hare Krishna scriptures referring to the earth. There is none at all. And then there's Kona, which means corner or angle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
The maths of three corners. You have to know trigonometry in order to sail or to fly an aeroplane, besides sacred geometry and other things like that.
Yeah, tri is right in the name. Tri is 3.
Okay. So the art of navigation was born in the river Sind, or the Indus, over 6,000 years ago. The term navigation itself is derived from the Sanskrit word navigati, and you need a compass, a sextant, an astrolabe, a telescope, and a cartographic plane table. Do you know that you need to have a plane table in order to do any cartography? It has to be flat. So here's that number sequence I was explaining before. So if 9 times 12 equals 108, 108 divided by 2 is 54. Now why am I mentioning that is because the Hare Krishnas have 108 beads in their prayer circle, and the Christians only have 54. Hail Mary, full of grace. On their rosary, they have half the amount of beads as Hare Krishnas have.
Every one of those numbers breaks down to 9.
Indeed, absolutely. This is the proper
Every one. Yep.
So 21600, if you put 2 zeros, that would be the equinox, the equator circumference. And as I said, if you double that, it'll be 432. So one thing we haven't covered yet is outside the Arctic ring, there are more islands, but they're in circles. There's waters or liquids, then rocks and solidness. But we can't, currently we can't see that. But if I allow you to see the last 4 figures here in that particular chart, there are 4 ages: Satya Yuga, Golden Age; Treta Yuga, Silver Age; Dwapara Yuga, Bronze Age; and Kali Yuga, Iron Age. So 4 times 108,000 is how many years would be in Kali Yuga? 432,000.
Yeah.
8 times 8,000 would be 864, the amount of time in a Bronze Age. So those last 4 figures are correct figures for the ages and their distance times 1,000. I might add that there. So the reason I use nautical miles and I don't use statute miles or kilometres is because statute miles and kilometres are imperial system and or metric system. But we want to use the original system, which is Vedic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, each arc minute, so we'll do the maths, right? There's 1 nautical mile equals an arc minute. 60 arc minutes or 60 nautical miles equals 1 degree. And 360 times 60 is 21,600. That's about as simple as it is. And I don't know why people are more complicated than that, right? Now, on the chart that we're looking at now is the breakdown of kilometres, what length a knot is or a nautical mile is to miles per hour and kilometres. But again, all that dialogue's also on the bottom of my map. And this shows you how what I just said before about the golden, silver, bronze and iron age and the lengths of years. And one cycle of that is known as a Maha Yuga or a Chata Yuga, which is 4.32 million years long. When I put the word SEY, that means a solar Earth year, because the sun is governing time on Earth.
Okay.
More so than any other entity. Let me just press on until I find something. This is that other thing. In the scale of Brahma, who's our creator, his time sequence, for every Earth year, he's experiencing 100,000 to a second. It might be a millionth of a second. I've got to clarify that. So every time the Creator God experiences 1 second, X amount of thousands of years go on Earth. So my interest was spiritual versus material. These seem to have gone all out. But anyway, here's where the problem is for Western system. They think that they have a Stone Age, a Bronze Age, an Iron Age, whereas we have gold, silver, bronze, and iron. So they did away with Golden Age, and they only use the word Golden Age when a civilization's at its peak. Like the Hellenistic period of Greece might have been its Golden Age. Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
how they use it.
Gotcha.
Then they bring in other ages. So I'm just going to go through these: the Industrial Age, or the Revolution, Age of Revolution. But the most important age along here is the Air Age, 1903. Now, the reason that that's most important is because when we first learnt to fly, it was people in the private that were doing it. Therefore, they were travelling. They were exploring. The military got hold of flight in the First World War. What they did is they used it for reconnaissance first, then they used it for dropping bombs behind enemy lines, and then when they could coordinate the machine guns, they used it for dogfighting or shooting each other from the air. Now, as soon as you militarize something, they control the maps. So from 1914 onwards, all maps were round, flat Earth military maps of the world. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so after 1918, we then go back into this idea where we've got some airstrips now to land planes in, and when everyone went back into the private again, they'd start exploring. Excuse me. And then the Second World War came. So again, now all those original paddocks where you could land a plane, they're now airports and airfields and strategic and this and that. They now control everything. So, for instance, here in Darwin, when you come to Australia via the North End, you're not coming into a public airport. You're coming into a military airport with a public landing space and processing place. Darwin Airport is not a civil aviation airport. It is definitely military. So, in times of peace and relative prosperity, etc., the military just keeps itself behind the scenes. They're there, ready to take over at a drop of a hat.
Sure.
They're ready to commandeer everything, one might say. And then, of course, once they knew the mapping, after the Second World War, they bring out Werner von Braun, and they developed the V2 to V4 and to the Apollo missions. Of course, we know now that, of course, that had to be a military operation rather than anything civil or even, privatized. We realize the whole thing's military. And as soon as it's military, it has to establish all of its protocols of secrecy, etc., which then keeps us in ignorance. But the rocket program itself, of course, nothing's happened really since the Apollo space missions. They haven't got the Orion space mission to go yet because they can't get past the Van Allen belts. Well, that means then that they never went to the moon. So why didn't they just say that in the same sequence?
Exactly.
Why would they tell the truth if they weren't forced to tell the truth? So the flat Earth is an archaic, ancient conception of the Earth's shape as a plane or a disc. And that's, for instance, why we have the word discovery and discover. D-I-S-C, disc. Do you follow?
Beautiful.
That's a good one, right?
That is a good one.
It's not called ball discover.
Oh,
you see?
Oh man, that's good.
It's called discover.
Or curvizon. That's a nice air curve. I mean plane.
Yeah. So ancient cultures subscribe to the flat Earth cosmography, and modern flat Earth societies are modern societies that are based on a belief. They haven't still worked out the proofs, but with this Nick on, we work out the proofs.
Can you show them some? Because we've only got 10 minutes left.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask Sanatan to interrupt again. We're going to get another file, and I'll show you some long distance video in photographs, I should say.
Okay.
Do you want to just find some other?
Yeah, because I want to see your
We're going to run out of time in 10 minutes or 12 minutes.
Well, it'll be here. Is there anything else here you want to? It'll be here.
I could go through all that. No, it's in a particular separate folder.
Okay, so let's see. What do we do then? Photos.
Okay, good. Oh, here goes. That's
A lot of stuff is down here. You didn't put any vids here though, did you? It's on your stick.
Yeah, we can go to the stick. Hold on. Go that up a bit. Up a bit. What's that one? That one. Yeah. Yeah, so these are some of the long distance photographs I'm doing. This is from where we currently live. This is Brisbane Airport, which is about 40 nautical miles away.
About how much curvature would you say is missing?
Well, the thing is, you can't see any curvature there at all because there isn't a bit of it.
Right.
So that's this airplane leaving the airport at 45 miles away or whatever it is. I'd have to get the specific distances. But see, if you look at this picture, can you see that picture there?
Yeah.
Can you see that there's a bomb radar? There's a ball on the top of the stick.
Yes.
Well, that's Mount Hardgrave, and that's 54 nautical miles away.
That's missing quite a few miles of curvature. Yeah, that's missing a lot of curvature.
And I'm seeing the beach of where we are 1,500 feet high where I'm taking the shot. But if you do what I said before, 54 times 6,000 and then divide it by the 1,500, you'll get a staggering ratio. It's just hundreds and hundreds to one.
Right.
You see? So this is from Mary McCarthy's Lookout at Mary Cross Drive. The height's 1,510 feet. The distance is 53.2 nautical miles or 98.5 kilometres. Right? So, or in American, it's 61.2 statute miles. And this is the same spot, but on a different lighting day. See how it now jumps out of the background?
Yes, sure does.
Okay, so this is Brisbane City, and you can see how much clarity we had that day. You can actually see the stripes in the glass.
Wow.
And in the background, can you see that building with the diagonal cut?
Sure can. It's like a 45-degree cut. Go ahead.
Well, right behind that is a mountain. You can see it diagonally sticking up like a pyramid.
Yes. Wow.
Well, that's Mount Warning, which is in the state of New South Wales, behind Byron Bay, and that is 99 nautical miles away. It is 1 degree and 39 arc minutes of distance, and yet it's only 3,600 feet high. So let's just say we go from 99 to 100 nautical miles to round it off. That means it's 676, 6,000. Sorry, just 1 second. Times 100.
Take your time.
607,000 feet away, that mountain is, and I'm only 1,500 feet high, and it's only 3,600 feet high. So there's 5,000 divided into 606,000 feet. And you'll see that it's like 1 to 100. It's impossible that there's any curvature at all.
Oh, absolutely. There's zero.
And that is the longest shot I think that's ever been taken in Australia, just by the way.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
That's the whole of you're looking at Brisbane from the north to the south, and you're looking from left to right, the entire CBD.
This is from where I live, Jerry, in Mullaney. We're just 3 minutes outside of the town called Mullaney on the Sunshine Coast, and we're looking down at Brisbane like it's like 100 k's away.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, I can really see that building too.
Well, now you can see the entire profile of Brisbane and still see that mountain smack in the middle of it.
That thing is huge, that mountain.
Mount Warning. Well, it's the most important mountain on the eastern seaboard because, as Sanatan says, it gets the light first thing on there. The sun touches there.
First light. First light.
Before it touches Byron Bay. But I will say to you, in this photography experiment, if you have a look at the really bad skies, the amount of chemtrailing they do across Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, the Gold Coast and northern New South Wales, it's nearly impossible to get that shot.
It's amazing you can get anything. I can't believe you can get anything.
There you go.
It's amazing. The chemtrailing is insane.
Yeah, well, I've been video recording since chemtrails since 2006, and I've got them on time lapse. So here's just some of the maps. These are some of the images I've made with their rectangular maps. In other words, I made that map from this map, and from that map I made that map, but that one's incorrect. They've cut the picture is cut too tight at the top. So that one is correct. This is a flat earth map. I just grabbed their rectangular map and I made that.
Nice.
With the help of a Photoshop program.
That looks cool.
So there it is. There's the original, and that's how it is when it's azimuthal put back together the right fashion.
Correctly.
Okay, so this map is released by NOAA, NOAA, by the way.
Oh.
And this is their weather map. Excuse me. Oh, that shouldn't be in there. That's the one that should be there. So I've done this to all their maps. See, so there's their original. This is the azimuthal. There's their original, and this is the azimuthal. You see?
Yeah.
So what I did is I went through all their maps. It took me a long, long time, but nonetheless, when I show you, if you have a look at this map, for instance, the one we're looking at, do you know where Egypt is in North Africa?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Well, the border between Egypt and Libya is a straight line to the top, right?
Yep.
Until you do this to it. Whoopsie, where's it gone? Oh, here it is. If you have a look now, that line between Egypt and Libya is running to the center. And the reason is because cartography only uses a flat magnetic compass. So it can only ever point towards the center. So the borders of Australia, right, the borders of the states of New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia is a dead straight line back to centre. The border of Northern Territory and Queensland is a line back to centre. And the border of Western Australia with South Australia and Northern Territory is a line back to centre. You can't see it on the map I'm showing at the moment, but what that means is that the compass is still working perfectly well outside of the equator on a flat plane, showing them where the North Pole is.
Yes.
So
this is impossible on a ball. Impossible on a globe-tard ball. Go ahead.
It really is. Never mind.
The same with the states in Canada. Check out Canada and
the border of Alaska and Canada is a dead straight line to centre, and all the borders of Canadian states run back to centre, and so do the plain states of America. And the border of North America with Canada is actually a radial arc from centre.
Huh.
So the borders themselves tell you, when you look at them properly on a flat plane, that we live on a flat plane. So getting back to the point about Australia's borders, if you look at our borders on a ball, they point outwards towards the the equator, but a magnetic line doesn't go out and then bounce suddenly back in again.
Of course.
It only follows something straight.
Exactly.
So number one, we don't stand on our heads down here.
Oh my.
We're not using gravitational boots to hang on.
Wait a minute. No, wait a minute. I've got gum on the bottom of my...
Yeah. You better check your shoes
So-
just in case Copernicus didn't try to throw some gum up in there.
Yeah, we use eucalyptus gum. It's very sticky.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
So I hope I've given you some food for thought about what I'm doing here.
Love it.
But these images, I made them all because I cracked their cartography. Do you follow the logic? I worked out what they were doing with their cartography.
Yeah, no, I love it. Absolutely love that you go back to the Sanskrit. Especially love that too. I mean, absolutely.
You want to bring it back on track now so we can see each other's
Yeah,
face?
we'll just say goodbye to the reading.
So, my dear friend Jerry, what a nice surprise.
Thank you, thank you. Hey,
We're back.
And I know it was just we were flying by the seat of our pants, so to speak, rather than following a. But I'll get some shows sorted, and whenever I'm invited back, I'll come along and give you. We'll have it all.
Oh, you're always
organised. I'll
invited.
run-
You're always invited back. You're always invited. Automatically.
We got set up an hour before the show, and we had major technical problems. In fact, achintya is using my computer off a stick and cannot present through his PowerPoint presentation. Cannot get onto Skype. Hence, everything's gone wrong. So that was the best we could do. We might come back, in a couple of weeks or something, and do it again and just show all the photos and slide evidence that achintya has accumulated.
Yeah, we got to. We have to see that. It was a fantastic presentation today. Fantastic.
Thanks so much for being
Absolutely.
patient with
Love
me
it.
and your audience.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. See you next week, Jerry.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Have a blessed day. Thank you so much. Much love. I love you all.
So, on to you and namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.
Hare Krishna.